Hello everyone, thank you for joining. I am Jisary and I welcome you to my channel where I do all different kinds of creative content. Why is it so hard to find information in the UI? Why can my character crouch when it is not used for anything? Why does my car accelerate so very slowly? Why is the game so hard? Because it is realistic. Often when developers are asked why they implemented something the way they did, the answer is due to realism. Which is, in most cases, a very bad answer, to be honest. In this video, I want to take a look at what this answer really means and what the better answer would be. And to start this off, let's see what realism actually means. According to the Cambridge Dictionary, the definition of realism is: realism is a noun that means a tendency to accept facts and deal with situations practically rather than through false hopes or abstract ideas. It also refers to a style in art and literature that shows life as it truly is. And within this definition lies already the problem. Especially the definition within art and literature is interesting. Shows life as it truly is. People play video games for many reasons. To compete, to learn, to socialize, or for the sake of escapism. If we ask the dictionary what the definition of escapism is, we get the following. Escapism is a noun defined as the habit of mind or form of entertainment used to avoid or retreat from an unpleasant, boring, or stressful reality. By this point, you can probably guess what the issue here is. If people play a video game to escape reality, do they really find fun in activities, content, or features that are as close to reality as possible? Of course, the answer is not black or white. There are genres that benefit from making the experience as real as possible, like flight or train simulators. But we need to assert that these games have a specific audience that finds their fun and motivation in living a fantasy that is close to something that exists in real life. Something they are not able to do but would love to, like being a pilot or a train conductor, for example. When the goal of a game is to provide the fantasy of a specific job that exists in the real world, it makes obviously sense to make it as realistic as possible. But these are not the games where these questions are asked, the questions from the beginning of the video. No flight simulator enthusiast would ask why flying the plane is so hard, because mastering the complexity of the task is actually part of the fun. It is something these players expect. But now imagine the complexity of a flight simulator within an arcade on-rail shooter like Star Fox. Imagine it. How would that translate in your eyes? It would beg the question, why is it so complex? And the answer, because realism, would sound a bit weird in that case. Unrealistic, one might say. So, why is that? We already answered that to a degree. The main differentiator here is the audience, their motivation and the fantasy a game wants to sell. Arcade shooters are all about the spectacle. The fun comes from a simple interaction. Fast actions create a lot of effects. Players need to react to a changing environment, and there lies the focus of players. To react fast to events that happen around them. Complex piloting mechanics would deviate from that goal and stand actually in the way of the fun. It is rare that people seek out a super realistic fantasy. Usually players want to feel good about themselves when playing. They want to feel smart or maybe relaxed. Sometimes they just want to express themselves, experience a nice story, or completely immerse themselves in a better, other world. Generally said, playing games is about eliciting desirable experiences. what a desirable experience is differs from person to person, of course. But seeking out a game that realistically depicts a certain part of life doesn't make sense because people have real life outside their door. This is why many games romanticize their experiences. Farming games are one of the most common examples. Farming games are about the fantasy of being a farmer, often starting a new life somewhere, which is a fantasy that speaks to a lot of people. But it leaves out many things that in reality a farmer would need to do, that are not desirable. Farming games usually add just enough realism to make the fantasy believable, but concentrate on the aspects that are more fun to their target audience, simplifying the aspects of farming that can get overwhelming or just too difficult. Everyone who tried to raise crops in the garden or maybe on the balcony knows that it's actually pretty hard to raise crops. You need enough water, not too much or too little, sun, moisture in the air, the right fertilizer, the correct soil, yada yada yada. Most farming games leave a lot of this out for the sake of a broader set of features. To make the fantasy of starting a new life so enjoyable, only looking out for crops would probably not cut it. But making it as realistic as possible would take the time away from other activities like exploration, interacting with NPCs, mining, fighting, and whatever else the game wants to offer in their experience. In the end, it is always about the intent. What is the game supposed to feel like? Who is the target audience? And how should players spend their time within the game? Often, developers forget to figure this out in detail before making important decisions, or they simply think it's not so important to know. And the result is often that games feel too easy or too hard, too complex or too unfocused, not accessible enough, and so on. Falling back to making a game more realistic is an easy cop-out for an issue that arises later in development. And it is generally easier to imagine how something could be if it would be just more realistic. Everyone can have a look outside the door and try to build whatever they see. But abstracting something, having a picture in your head and filling in the theoretical blanks with abstract ideas or concept is way more difficult, and not everyone can do that or enjoys doing it. But when making video games, this is one of the most important things to figure out. Only then do you know which features make sense, how the activities should be designed, and how everything should be balanced. Who do I make this game for? What do these players enjoy? And what do they get motivated by? This is what you need to ask yourself. And the answer is rarely, I seek out a super realistic life experience. Because if that would be the case, I would just do my taxes and have fun with that. So, cycling back to the original intent of this video. What does the answer really mean? Often it just means that the developers haven't thought enough about their intent, and realism is just an easy conclusion. Something that they want to have in the game, or they use realism wrong. Often when people say realistic, they actually mean immersive, which are completely different things. Games can be super unrealistic and still very immersive, and the other way around. But making a game immersive is harder, or let's say less obvious than making it more realistic, for the reasons I already stated. And oftentimes, developers, especially on higher leadership levels, they don't have time. No time to think, no time to analyze, no time to discuss. But they still want to feel in control, which means to make the decision themselves, and using realism is just an easy decision. Wrong, but easy. So, what would be the better answer then? Well, that depends. But if it is really about adding realism to an experience, the better answer would be to make the experience more authentic. And if the players don't like it, you either found the wrong community for your game, or are not making a good job creating the experience you set out to create. The fantasy just doesn't fit what you tell your players. Always remember where the fun in your game is supposed to come from. Are you making a hardcore simulator about pilots? Or are you making a fun simulator where the fun comes from expression and silly little moments with NPCs or constructing something cool all by yourself? Realism as a sole goal is rarely a winner. Be aware of what you're doing and your intent. And be more specific about what you want to achieve. Achieving realism is, for all the reasons stated in this video, in most cases actually not the goal that you want. And when you do all of that and you know the intent and your target audiences, you will be able to answer all the player questions from the beginning understandably and satisfactory for everyone. Thank you all for listening to my little monologue. Let me know if there are any other game-related topics you would like me to talk about. Have a great rest of the day. Stay healthy and comfy. Until we meet again.